The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm, golden hue across the sprawling fields of lavender surrounding the quaint village of Enfield. The scent of blooming flowers mingled with the sweet summer air, creating an intoxicating atmosphere that seemed to hum with possibility. Julia stood on the porch of her family's farmhouse, her fingers brushing against the weathered wood, a smile tugging at her lips as she watched her younger brother Max chase after butterflies. His laughter rang out like music, a high-pitched trill that made her heart swell with affection. "Come on, Max! You've got to catch one!" she called, leaning against the railing. "Just one more!" he shouted back, darting through the rows of lavender, his arms flailing as he tried to capture a particularly elusive butterfly. Julia chuckled softly, her heart warming at the sight. Family had always been the bedrock of her life, especially since their mother passed away years ago. She felt a twinge of sadness at the memory, but she quickly pushed it aside, focusing instead on the joys of the present. As she watched Max, a voice disrupted her thoughts. "Are you going to stand there all day, or are you going to help me with the preparations?" Julia turned to see her father, Tom, emerging from the barn, his hands dusty and his shirt soaked with sweat. He wiped his brow, a weary look on his face, but there was a twinkle in his eye that reminded her of the countless times they had shared laughter and stories on this very porch. "Right, sorry. I was just enjoying the view," she replied, stepping off the porch. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Tom agreed, glancing out at the fields. "But the festival won't set itself up. We need to get the decorations ready for tonight." Julia nodded and followed her father into the barn. The space was filled with the scent of hay and freshly cut flowers. "Have you seen the ribbons? The ones we used last year?" Tom asked, as he rummaged through a pile of boxes. "Over there, next to the old tractor," Julia pointed, her voice light. "Good eye, kiddo." She liked how he still called her that, even though she was 25 now. It made her feel cherished, like the little girl who used to follow him around, wanting to learn everything about farm life. As they worked together, stringing up colorful banners and hanging lanterns, Julia's thoughts drifted to the festival. It was the village's annual summer celebration, a time when families gathered to share food, laughter, and stories. This year felt special. She could sense it in the air, a thrill of excitement that made her heart race. "Do you think anyone will notice if I sneak a few pastries from the table?" she asked, grinning as she tied a knot in a length of ribbon. "Only if you leave crumbs," Tom replied with a chuckle, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "You know me too well," she laughed. Just then, the sound of a car engine broke the peaceful ambience. Julia paused, glancing out the barn door. A sleek, dark sedan rolled up the gravel driveway, and her stomach flipped. She recognized the car immediately. "Is that—" she began, her voice trailing off. Tom looked up, squinting against the sun. "Looks like it. I'll get the door." Julia's heart raced. It had been years since she had seen him, her childhood friend, the boy who had stolen her heart more times than she could count. But life had pulled them in different directions. "Hey, Julia!" Max's voice rang out, interrupting her thoughts as he ran back toward the barn, his butterfly forgotten. "Who's here?" "Just someone from the past," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the approaching figure. As the car door swung open, a tall, familiar silhouette emerged. Ethan stepped out, his tousled hair glinting in the sunlight. He wore a relaxed smile, but Julia could see the hint of nervousness in his eyes. He caught sight of her and paused, his expression shifting from surprise to warmth. "Ah, Julia, it's been too long," he called, his voice deep and melodic. "Ethan," she exclaimed, unable to suppress the grin spreading across her face. She rushed toward him, and they embraced tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of cedar and sunshine. "It feels like a lifetime," he said, pulling back to look at her. "It really does. You look great," she replied, her cheeks flushing. "Thanks, you too," he said, his gaze lingering on her. "Max, this is Ethan," Julia said, gesturing to her brother, who was watching them with wide eyes. "Hi," Max chirped, extending his hand enthusiastically. "Hey there, little buddy," Ethan knelt down, shaking Max's hand with a firm grip. "You've grown a lot since I last saw you." "I've been catching butterflies," Max boasted, puffing out his chest. "Impressive. Maybe you can show me your collection later?" "Okay," Max exclaimed, his excitement bubbling over. Julia watched the exchange, her heart warming at how easily Ethan connected with her brother. It felt natural, like no time had passed at all. "Are you back for the festival?" Julia asked, tucking a stray hair behind her ear. "Yeah, I came in for the weekend. Thought I'd see what the old town was up to," he replied, glancing toward the barn. "I heard your family was hosting the festival this year. I couldn't miss it." "We're just finishing up the decorations," Julia said, gesturing back toward the barn. "Want to lend a hand?" "Absolutely," Ethan said, rising to his feet. As they worked side by side, the rhythm of their conversation flowed like the gentle breeze outside. "Remember the last festival we attended together? You ended up covered in pie," he teased, laughter sparkling in his eyes. Julia laughed, shaking her head. "I still blame you for that. You dared me to do it." "And you did. That was epic." They exchanged playful banter, the past mingling with the present, until the air around them was thick with nostalgia and unspoken feelings. "Hey, Julia, can I ask you something?" Ethan said, his tone growing serious. "Sure," she replied, her heart racing. "Why didn't you come to the reunion last year? Everyone missed you. I missed you." The weight of his words hung in the air, and Julia hesitated. "I guess I was just busy. Life got in the way," she admitted, avoiding his gaze. "Life always gets in the way," he said softly, moving closer. "But that doesn't mean we shouldn't make time for the people who matter." Julia felt her heart flutter, a warmth spreading through her. "Right," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ethan reached out, brushing a stray flower petal from her hair. "I never stopped thinking about you, you know?" Her breath hitched. "You didn't?" "No," he said, his eyes searching hers. "And I know we were just kids back then, but I've thought about what it would be like to have you back in my life. For real." Tension crackled between them, electric and undeniable. Julia's heart raced, her mind spinning with possibilities. "Ethan, she began. But before she could finish, a loud crash erupted from the barn, followed by a chorus of laughter. Max had knocked over a stack of hay bales, sending them tumbling to the ground with a loud thud. "Max," Julia called, rushing over to help him. "Oops," he giggled, unrepentant as he began to stack the hay back up. Ethan joined her, chuckling as they worked together to clean up the mess. "Guess we'll have to continue this conversation later," he said, shooting her a teasing grin. "Yeah," she replied, her heart still racing. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the festival took shape. Laughter filled the air, mingling with the scent of roasted meats and sweet pastries. Families gathered, and the sound of music floated through the village, inviting everyone to dance. Julia stood with her family, watching as the villagers celebrated, her heart full. "Hey, are you going to dance with Ethan?" Max asked, tugging on her sleeve. She began, but before she could answer, Ethan appeared beside her, a playful smile on his lips. "Care to join me for a dance?" he asked, extending his hand. Julia glanced at Max, who nodded eagerly. "Okay," she said, placing her hand in Ethan's. Together they stepped into the throng of villagers, the music enveloping them. As they danced, the world around them faded, leaving only the two of them, lost in the moment. "See, isn't this better than just standing around?" Ethan asked, spinning her playfully. Julia laughed, her heart soaring. "Definitely," she agreed, her eyes shining with happiness. With every twirl and dip, the connection between them deepened, weaving a tapestry of shared memories and new beginnings. In that moment, under the twinkling lights and surrounded by laughter, Julia realized that perhaps the love they had once shared hadn't faded at all. It had simply waited for the right time to blossom again. The festival swirled around them, but for Julia and Ethan, it was just the beginning. The world around them blurred, the festival faded into a distant hum, and all that remained was the connection they shared. A connection that felt both familiar and exhilaratingly new. Ethan twirled her expertly, pulling her close with a gentle tug. "You always did love to dance," he said, his breath warm against her ear. "I remember you trying to teach me the two-step," she teased, her cheeks flushed from the exhilaration of the moment. "You insisted I was hopeless." "Only because you kept stepping on my toes," he laughed, his eyes sparkling. Julia felt a rush of warmth as their gazes locked. an unspoken understanding passing between them. She could see the boy she had known years ago reflected in the man before her. The same playful spirit, the same lingering affection. But time had changed them both, and she couldn't help but wonder how much had been left unsaid between them. As the final notes of the song faded, Ethan pulled her to a stop, his hands resting lightly on her waist. "I've missed this," he said quietly, his voice a low murmur that sent shivers up her spine. "Me too," she confessed, her heart racing. "I didn't realize how much until you showed up today." He searched her eyes, his expression turning serious. "I know we've both been busy, but I want to make sure this time isn't just a fleeting moment. I want to be part of your life again, Julia." Her breath caught in her throat. The weight of his words settled heavily on her heart. "Ethan, I—" Suddenly, the unmistakable sounds of fireworks erupted in the night sky, illuminating their faces with bursts of color. The villagers cheered, their voices echoing in the cool evening air. Julia's heart fluttered at the sight, but her thoughts remained tangled with Ethan's confession. "Look!" Max shouted, pointing upward, his eyes wide with wonder. "Fireworks!" Julia turned to see her brother, his face aglow with delight. The vibrant colors danced across the sky, painting it with brilliant shades of red, blue, and gold. She felt Ethan's hand slip into hers, grounding her amidst the chaos of emotions swirling inside her. "Seems like the universe is telling us something," he said with a soft smile, his thumb brushing against her palm. "Maybe it is," she whispered, her pulse quickening. The fireworks crackled and popped, each explosion mirroring the excitement building in her chest. "Let's take a walk," Ethan suggested, leading her away from the crowd. They wandered toward the edge of the lavender fields, where the glow of the fireworks faded into a gentle twilight. The air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers, and the distant sounds of laughter and music created a cozy background. "Do you remember the treehouse?" Ethan asked, glancing sideways at her with a crooked smile. Julia laughed, her heart lightening. "Of course! You built it all by yourself, and I was so proud of you. I still have that silly picture of us sitting in it." "I was the king of the world up there," he said, his tone playful, "and you were my loyal subject." "More like your reluctant subject," she retorted. "I was terrified of climbing up there." Ethan chuckled, the sound echoing in the quiet night. "You were brave enough to venture up with me, though. That counts for something." They paused at the edge of the field, the moon rising high above them, casting a silvery glow over the lavender. A gentle breeze stirred the flowers, creating a soft rustling sound that felt like whispers of encouragement. "Julia," he said, turning serious once more, "I've thought long and hard about what I wanted to say today. Life has taken us on different paths, but I believe we can create a new one together. I want to be there for you, to support you and your dreams. I want to be part of your family again." Her heart swelled at his words. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the warmth of his spirit pulling her in. "Ethan, I know it's a lot to take in," he said quickly, sensing her hesitation. "But I'm not asking for everything right now. Just a chance to see where this can go." The distant fireworks continued to light up the night sky, but Julia felt a different kind of spark igniting within her. "I want that too," she finally said, her voice steady. "I want to explore this, whatever this is between us." Ethan's face broke into a radiant smile that made her heart flutter. "Really? You mean it?" "Yeah," she replied, her cheeks warming. "I want to see if we can find our way back to each other." He stepped closer, their hands interlocking more firmly. "Then let's take it one day at a time. I'm not going anywhere." As they stood together, the stars twinkling above them and the sounds of the festival fading into the background, Julia felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was the beginning of something new, a chance to rebuild, to reconnect, and to discover the depths of their love anew. "Let's go back," she said softly, looking up at him. "I want to celebrate with my family." "Lead the way," Ethan replied, his eyes sparkling with joy. As they walked back toward the festival, hand in hand, the laughter of their loved ones enveloped them like a warm embrace. Julia felt the weight of her past lifting, replaced by the promise of a future filled with hope and love. Together, they stepped into the light of the celebration, the night alive with possibilities. The fireworks exploded in the sky above, bursting forth in brilliant colors, mirroring the excitement in Julia's heart. In that moment, surrounded by family and friends, she knew that love had a way of finding its way back home, even through the winding paths of life. And as the music swelled once more, Julia and Ethan joined in the festivities, ready to dance into the future together.